This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, I'm Ruth Nicholson from Go, and I'm here to help you with an introduction to the Massachusetts Youth Soccer Governance Review and Improvement Program. At the end of this video, you're going to be able to identify the roles and responsibilities of your governance in managing your organization. We're going to talk about the difference between a constitution and bylaws. I'm going to show you how to find the organizational information from your club or your league on the state website. And we're going to talk about what to look for when you're reviewing your constitution and bylaws. But first, we're going to talk a little bit of foundation. So imagine that a youth soccer club or a youth league has three pillars, has three legs of a stool, and your teams and your players are sitting on that stool and you don't want them to fall off. One leg is coaching and the support we give our coaches. One leg is governance and leadership. That's where your board of directors lives. And the third is operations and administration. They're three different things that need to be in balance to make your organization successful. And when it comes to your board really has four key responsibilities. One is setting the strategic direction and the priorities of the programs that your organization offers. The other are high-level policies and procedures. They're going to manage money and they're going to manage people. And that includes both paid staff and volunteers. Now, one of the other legs of the stool is operations. And you'll often hear the term working boards. Working boards are when you have board members who not only govern the organization on the board of directors, but they also do a lot of the administrative work to keep the club or the league running. Daily club operations like membership and communications, field scheduling, equipment and uniforms, that day-to-day stuff. Those are actually two different functions. And you know what? Our heads can only wear one hat at a time. So know which one you're wearing if you're working in an organization that has a working board, because the overlap of the responsibilities and work of the government's leg of the stool and the operations leg of the stool can sometimes collide in micromanagement and potential conflict. So know what hat you're wearing. At Go, we've actually come up with core competencies for all three legs of the stool: for coaching, for administration, and for governance. Of the seven, the first core competency under governance are your legal organizing documents, your constitution, your bylaws, those types of things. The others have to do with strategic planning, clear leadership roles, managing money and managing people, your risk management program, and documenting your policies and procedures. Not just the ones in your constitution and bylaws, but the day-to-day policies that you use in your programs on the ground. So why do this program at all? Why get a grip? Well, basically, because we want to keep your organization safe. When organizations don't follow what's in their governing documents, when they don't follow what's in their constitution and their bylaws, there's the opportunity to put your organization, your board, and even individual board members at risk. And we don't want that to happen. So Massachusetts Youth Soccer wants to help its member clubs and leagues review their governing documents and find ways to make them better. One of my favorite books is The Go-Giver, written by a fellow named Bob Berg. And he talks about a frame which is a foundation from which everything else comes. Well, your constitution and bylaws are the frame for your organization, the foundation on which all of your programs sit. So what is a constitution? The Constitution is the legal document that creates your club or your league. Okay, it establishes it as a nonprofit. It states its purpose. It's not always as long as bylaws, but it doesn't play a huge role in day-to-day operations. This is a creation document. Now, for those that are associated with Massachusetts Youth Soccer, there's some specific language and some specific clauses that need to be in the Constitution. And I'm going to tell you where you can find those. The Constitution may also go by other names. Don't let it confuse you. It might be Articles of Incorporation. It might be Articles of Organization. It might be Charter. Whatever it's called, this is your creation document. It creates your club and your organization. Now, there are a number of things that need to go into a constitution. You see about 10 of them here. These are the sections you're going to look for when you're reviewing your document. And in the member toolkit section of the Massachusetts Youth Soccer website, there's a help document that helps describe what each of these sections are and what language needs to go in each section. Now, don't let number 9 fool you. It says rules of play. I'll give you a hint. Don't put the entire laws of the game in your constitution, because if you did that, every time the laws of the game changed, you'd have to amend your constitution, and that's a pretty formal process. So you can talk about which laws of the game you're going to follow, who issues those, but don't print the whole laws of the game in your constitution. That'll give you a headache. Now, you can find all of the legal documents that your organization has filed with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at this website, www.sec.state.ma.us. Now, when you go to that website, you're going to see a blue box that says corporations. All corporations, for-profit and nonprofit, can be searched from that box. So when you select search the corporate database and you enter the name of your organization, now this is the legal name, mind you, and you will see a listing of those entities. The name of the organization is also called an entity. And when you click on that, you're going to see a summary of your organization. And at the bottom of that summary is something called View Filings. The translation of that is it shows all of the documents that your organization has filed with the state over the course of its existence. There are all kinds of filings. There's annual reports, there's certificates of change. Some organizations merge, some are dissolved and are revived. Constitutions get amended. And then you'll see the original Constitution, Articles of Organization, Articles of Incorporation. That should be one of the filings listed at the very, very bottom of the list of filings, because it's the first thing that gets filed. Now, sometimes filings are delayed or even forgotten when staff changes or when volunteers change. So you want to make sure you look this up to make sure that your annual reports are up to date and that the filings for any changes in your board members have also been made. So let's talk briefly about bylaws. Bylaws are also a legal document, but they're a little more detailed. They outline how your organization is going to operate. So these are closer to day-to-day use. They often address membership, meetings, board members, how they're elected, what their responsibilities are, and how bylaws can be changed. Just like constitutions, bylaws can be changed and amended. Now remember, bylaws are not your operations manual. They're high-level descriptions of how the organization is going to work. But for the day-to-day nitty-gritty, those are your program policy documents and your operations manuals. So don't get overly specific in your bylaws, or every time you want to change, you're going to have to amend them. So there are 12 sections in bylaws. These are your 12 sections. You can use this list when you're doing your document review. This is also covered in the member toolkit. There's a resource in the member toolkit on the Massachusetts Youth Soccer website that will help you work through these and will also help you with the required language in a couple of these sections. So let's start with the first step in looking at your bylaws. First of all, you've got to find them. Because you see, you're not going to find them on the Secretary of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts website. You don't file bylaws with the state. Normally, they're kept in your offices of the club or league. So I'm hoping that your filing system is good and your board of directors knows where the bylaws are and they know what the bylaws say. Common issues, every now and again, folks don't know where the current set of bylaws are. So make sure you find them. You want to document high-level significant policies in the bylaws, but not policies that change year to year or change every couple of years. If it's something that needs to be updated a lot, you can refer to it in general in the bylaws, but don't hardwire it or you're going to have to amend your bylaws every time that policy changes. You want to keep those day-to-day policies out of the bylaws because but you do want to write those policies down somewhere. If they're not in your bylaws, you still should write them down so you remember what they are and you can pass them off to the volunteer that comes after you. You can avoid putting your working groups, your operational committees in bylaws. There really are only a handful of committees that are typically in bylaws, the most common being an executive committee, a finance committee, a nominating committee. And you might ask, well, how do I know if I even need a committee? Well, there are basically 4 reasons to have a committee. If they're required by your bylaws or your constitution, then you've got to have that committee. And those are usually standing committees. Don't have too many of them. If you have committees because they're special skills committees, they're a project that's really big, like a tournament where you have lots of people that have to help out, or you have a PR kind of need where you need community support. The last 3 kinds of committees here, you don't need to put in your bylaws. Just put the ones you must have. You don't need to put in your tryout committee. You don't need to put in your tournament committee. You don't need to put in your uniform committee. Those are more working group kinds of committees that don't need to be in your bylaws. So how do you participate in this program? How do you get a grip? First, we're going to offer some Q&A sessions so we can delve deeper into your questions and concerns about constitutions and bylaws and what you need to look for when you're reviewing them. You can download the Constitution and Bylaws guidelines on the Massachusetts Youth Soccer website. And yes, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Then you review your Constitution and bylaws, go through them, see if they've got the required language and they've got all the sections. You can also send your Constitution and bylaws to the staff at Massachusetts Youth Soccer. They'll review it and give you some feedback. Know that this isn't formal legal review. It's staff review. And we'll give you some feedback, maybe some suggestions, and then steps 6 and 7 are your bailiwick, because we want to encourage you to send, when you've got the documents the way you want them, send them to your attorney for a final review. Make sure that you do get that formal review before you go through the formal process of amending your Constitution and bylaws. Those 2 steps are local steps at your club or your league. And then a little while down the line, we're going to ask for your feedback on what was your experience and what we need to do to make it better. Now, there are a number of resources to help you do this. The Constitution and Bylaws guidelines on the Massachusetts Youth Soccer website under their member toolkit. And there's some other good things on the member toolkit that might help you out. You've got the staff at Massachusetts Youth Soccer. Go is here to help you as well. If the staff thinks you need extra help, I would be happy to help you. There's also a group in Massachusetts called MCLE, Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education. They've got some pretty hefty help documents on nonprofits. And you might have your own club or league attorney who can help you out as well. Now, I told you, I'd tell you how to get to the member toolkit. First, you go to the Massachusetts Youth Soccer website. Look for the Administration tab. It's up on the left, right next to the About tab. It'll open a page, and at the top right of that page, it says Member Toolkit. When you click on that, you're going to scroll down just a smidge, and you'll see a box, and it says Governance Principles. And there's a document on Constitution and bylaws that you can download right from that website. And it gives you a section by section breakdown for both constitutions and bylaws. So I told you at the end of this training, you'd be able to do 4 things. You'd know the roles and responsibilities of governance. Remember, strategic direction and program priorities, policies and procedures, money management, and personnel management, right? We talked about the difference between a constitution and bylaws. A constitution is the creation document for your organization, and bylaws is a high-level operations manual. We talked about how to find the organizational information on the state website for your organization to make sure that your annual reports and your other documents are up to date. And we looked briefly at the sections that should go into a constitution and bylaws, as well as some resources you can use to do your own review. So I hope this helps you start a successful review of your organization's constitution and bylaws. Let us know how we can help.